The predictions of the medieval scientist Nostradamus have always aroused and continue to arouse genuine interest among people. He predicted many tragedies that have already happened in different countries of the world. Nostradamus is believed to have accurately predicted landmark events such as the rise of Adolf Hitler, World War II, the September 11 terrorist attack, and the French Revolution that have shaped our world. The French mystic astrologer wrote 6,338 prophecies, including when, where, and how our world will dramatically end. Despite the fact that researchers interpret Nostradamus' quatrains in different ways, their opinions often converge. This also applies to 2023. The famous quatrains of the Seer are studied by specialists and lovers of the paranormal. This is not surprising because many of the predictions of the Nostradamus came true during his lifetime. The prophecies remain relevant to this day. In this quatrains, the famous astrologer encoded in allegorical form those events that will have to happen to humanity in the future. French astrologers' predictions for 2023. World War III, without going into the intricacies of calculating the dates, which the predictor also encrypted, we can say that it is in the next year that the Third World War will begin. At least many researchers of the quatrains insist on this. So John Hogue, in his book Nostradamus, The Complete Prophecy, writes that a global military conflict will happen in the 2020s. At the epicenter of action will be Russia, the United States, and China. Nostradamus wrote, 7 months the Great War, people dead or evil doing. This has also been predicted as the conflict in Ukraine caused by Russia, that this invasion can grow even bigger, resulting in World War III. Or it could refer to the ongoing conflict in the Southeast Asia between China and Taiwan, which threatens to drag the United States into a terrifying nuclear war. Hunger. Although the prediction of famine was previously attributed to 2022, now researchers believe that perhaps the French scientists had in mind after all 2023. As mentioned above, such disagreements are due to the interpretation of dates. Be that as it may, in the future, according to Nostradamus, people driven by hunger will begin to move from place to place, but this will not affect the situation in any way. Problems with drinking water and crops due to the use of chemical and nuclear weapons will remain. Economic crisis. The collapse of the economy in 2023, which Nostradamus also saw, can be considered a natural consequence of the global conflict. Joseph Joachimans, who studies ancient texts, reports that in his quatrains, the French alchemist spoke about the depreciation of money. In 2023, people will allegedly kindle bonfires with banknotes because the money will no longer be suitable for anything else. There will be riots as depositors storm from the banks demanding damages, but the doors would not be open for them. Natural disasters. The French pharmacist and alchemist Michel de Notre Dame predicted that the 21st century would be marked by a large number of all kinds of natural disasters, and natural disasters will not be an exception according to Nostradamus in 2023. And this is not surprising. It was in the mentioned year that the soothsayer saw a change in the orbit of the Earth. Moreover, the researchers believe that the Nostradamus predicted the fall of a huge meteorite on our planet, as evidenced by one of the quatrains about a fiery trail in the sky. Mars landing. Looking out into our galaxy, the French mystic cryptically refers to a light on Mars falling. These words could be explained as the planet appearing to move backward in the sky, say believers, or it suggests that humanity could be on the verge of a major breakthrough when it comes to colonizing the red planet. Elon Musk has made no secret of his desire to send humans to Mars and has suggested humans will land there by 2029, so maybe the billionaire has something up his sleeve for 2023. New Pope. Among the predictions made by Nostradamus for the coming year is a new Pope to succeed Francis. According to the soothsayer, Pope Francis will be the last true Pope, and the pontiff who takes his place will create a scandal. In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will be Peter the Roman, who will feed his flock amid many tribulations, after which the seven-hilled city will be destroyed and the dreadful judge will judge the people.
Everybody has heard of Nostradamus, but how much do people really know about the man? Most people are familiar with some of his prophecies, but there are a great many more which are lesser known. And there is also much more to learn about him than just his predictions. Michel de Nostradamus was born in 1503 in Provence, France, and died in 1566. His book, The Prophecies, was first published in 1555, has created a cult following the world over, and it continues to remain in print today. In addition to being a prophecy writer, Nostradamus was also known as a healer and had a great interest in medical science. However, he soon turned his attention to the occult, whereby he began to write annual almanacs which, when combined, contain over 6,000 prophecies in total. He normally published several detailed predictions, called almanacs, each year, as well as other more general predictions which were titled presages or prognostications. Upon publication of his book, it was met with a reaction, ranging from those who believed he was evil to those who truly felt that he was a prophet. Some of Nostradamus's almanacs for the year 1555 included what could be perceived as threats, though unnamed, to the royal family. As a result, King Henry II of France's wife, Catherine de' Medici, demanded that Nostradamus meet her in Paris to explain those particular prophecies. Originally fearful that he would be persecuted by Queen Catherine, she became one of his greatest admirers at the time and appointed him as physician in ordinary and counselor to King Charles IX of France, her son. Nostradamus was also fearful of being persecuted by the Roman Catholic Church. However, this did not eventuate, mainly because he didn't practice magic, and because prophecy and astrology were generally not targets of the Inquisition. Although he was imprisoned very briefly in 1561, this was due to the fact that he published his almanac in 1562 without gaining permission from a bishop. In general, however, it is thought that Nostradamus had a relatively positive relationship with the Roman Catholic Church. Nostradamus died in July 1566 after a prolonged battle with gout and eventually edema. His tomb now rests at the Collegial Saint Laurent. The prophecies of Nostradamus have remained popular over the centuries since his death. They've also prompted several thousand commentaries and entire books dedicated to deciphering his predictions. However, not everyone is convinced. Many people feel that the vague nature of many of his predictions make it too easy to relate them to current events at any opportunity. Despite this, the predictions of Nostradamus still have a place in popular culture today. Nostradamus is most famous for his apparent predictions of major world events. He wrote these in what are called quatrains, which are short, usually 4-line verses, often cryptic, but sometimes also mentioning specific places and even names. In particular, his name is often brought into the limelight during natural disasters such as floods, earthquakes, and droughts, as well as during wars and even murders. Some of the events that Nostradamus has been attributed to in some way, generally after the fact, include the Great Fire of London, a 3-day fire in 1666 which destroyed over 13,000 homes, the rise of Napoleon, Adolf Hitler's reign, world wars, Hiroshima's nuclear destruction, Princess Diana's death, September 11th, the World Trade Center terrorist attack, Hurricane Katrina. Some also believe that he has predicted World War III, although no one, quote, specifically predicts this occurring on any specific date. After one reads through a number of quatrains, one begins to realize a theme. Nostradamus tended to lean towards predicting struggles, wars, famines, disease, and death. Nostradamus tended to lean towards predicting struggles, wars, famines, disease, and death. These somewhat morbid themes of the prophecies are of course what has made them of such interest to humanity. People simply want to know what lies ahead and what major world events may affect not only their lives, but the whole of humankind. Although there are many books about Nostradamus, written by various authors who create their own interpretations of his prophecies, the following are generally widely accepted and well-known instances of Nostradamus accurately predicting major events. The Great Fire of London. Medieval London was largely destroyed by this fire in 1666, and many attribute the following Nostradamus prophecy as being a prediction of this major event. The blood of the just will commit a fault at London. Burnt through lighting of 23's the 6, the ancient lady will fall from her high place. Several of the same sect will be killed. The ancient lady is said to refer to the city of London, whilst the number 6 refers to the number of deaths, although it is likely the number was much higher due to unrecorded fatalities amongst the poor. The rise of Napoleon. Paul ne Laurent will be more of fire than of the blood, to swim in praise, the great one to flee to the confluence. He will refuse entry to the piouses, the depraved ones, and the Durants will keep them in prison. Paul ne Laurent, when rearranged, can spell out Napoleon Roy, the death of Princess Diana. One of the more recent events where a prophecy from Nostradamus was noted is the famous death of Princess Diana in a car accident in 1997. The quote taken to mark this event is as follows: "The penultimate of the surname of prophet will take Diana Thursday for his day and rest. He will wander because of a frantic head, and delivering a great people from subjection." Although the overall text is generally too vague to be considered to be pinpointing this event, there is no doubt that the use of the name Diana is the main reason that this particular Nostradamus prophecy has been linked to the death of the princess. The assassination of John F. Kennedy. It's no surprise that people wanted to find out if Nostradamus had indeed predicted the assassination of JFK. A search through his prophecies reveals the following, which comes eerily close to being very accurate, with a few unanswered questions. The great man will be struck down in the day by a thunderbolt, an evil deed foretold by the bearer of a petition. According to the prediction, another falls at nighttime. Conflict at Rheims, London, and a pestilence in Tuscany. Hurricane Katrina. The prophecy that has been linked to the USA's worst hurricane, Hurricane Katrina, in 2005 is the following one. The cities of Tours, Orleans, Blois, Angers, Reims, and Nantes are troubled by sudden change. Tents will be pitched by people of foreign tongues. Rivers, darts at Rennes, shaking of land and sea. No one has quite come up with an explanation for the other locations listed besides Orleans, but the shaking of land and sea as well as the mention of tents makes it obvious why this prediction has been linked to Katrina, Hiroshima, and the atomic bomb. The following prediction by Nostradamus is often linked to the Hiroshima incident, whilst some of it is quite vague and could certainly be attributed to a number of major destructive disasters, either in the past, present, or future. It is difficult to deny that its accuracy concerning Hiroshima is quite haunting. Near the gates and within 2 cities, there will be scourges, the like of which was never seen. Famine within plague, people put out by steel, crying to the great immortal God for relief. World War II. Nostradamus's predictions for World War II could be considered from the following 2 passages. In the place very near, not far from Venus, the 2 greatest ones of Asia and of Africa, from the Rhine and lower Danube, they will be said to have come. Cries, tears at Malta and Ligurian side. Whilst this passage can clearly be linked to Adolf Hitler. From the depths of the west of Europe, a young child will be born of poor people. He who by his tongue will seduce a great troop. His fame will increase towards the realm of the East. The French Revolution. From the enslaved people, songs, chants, and demands, the princes and lords are held captive in prisons. In the future, by such headless idiots, these will be taken as divine utterances. The princes and lords are held captive in prisons refers to the aristocracy who were held in prisons. Some were also beheaded. Another passage linked to this event is, "Before the war comes, the great wall will fall. The king will be executed. His death coming too soon will be lamented. The guards will swim in blood. Near the river Seine, the soil will be bloodied." The river Seine was the location of the rise and fall of the guillotine. September 11th, 2001. The New York City terrorist attacks. Perhaps one of the most widely quoted and potentially highly accurate Nostradamus prediction came in the form of the following one, relating to the unforgettable terrorist attacks on the Twin Towers in New York City in 2001. Earth-shaking fire from the center of the earth will cause tremors around the new city. Two great rocks will war for a long time. The Arethusa will redden a new river. The two great rocks can be considered to be the two twin towers that collapsed, while the mention of New City is obvious. Reading this passage after the attacks makes it easy to link to the event, although reading it prior to the disaster may lead one to consider it a reference to volcanoes or a fire, particularly the last line making mention of the reddening of a river. It is interesting to note that in Nostradamus's day, massive skyscrapers such as the Twin Towers were unheard of, which makes this prediction all the more chilling. The day following these terrorist attacks, Google's top reported worldwide search term was simply Nostradamus. A brief timeline of the life of Nostradamus. Born on December 14th, 1503, as Michel de Nostradamus in Saint-Romain-de-Provence, southern France. From 1522 to 1525, Nostradamus studied medicine at the Montpellier University. In 1529, he undertook his medicine doctoral studies at Montpellier Medical School. During the early part of the 1530s, Nostradamus spends much time working as a healer and also gets invited to philosopher Julius Caesar Scaliger's home. In 1534, Nostradamus weds and goes on to have 2 children. However, in 1537, both of his children, as well as his wife, succumb to the plague. He was then sued by the family of his deceased wife as they wished to have her dowry returned. He remarried in 1547, this time to Anne Ponsard. They go on to have 6 children over the years. Around 1540, Nostradamus was accused of heresy because of a comment made about a church statue. He then chooses to depart the region instead of going to the Inquisition at the Toulouse trial. This leads him to undertake travels throughout France and Italy for several years. Nostradamus used his healing and medicine knowledge to treat victims of the plague in 1546 at Aix-en-Provence. Another outbreak is then experienced in Salon-de-Provence, where he also travels to treat victims. The first almanac from Nostradamus is published in 1550. In it are general monthly predictions, and the almanac is highly successful, leading to many new versions every year until he dies. In 1552, he went back to writing about health with a book about fruit preservatives, perfumes, and cosmetics. It was published several years later and proved to be a great success. In 1555, he proceeds to start on the creation of Les Prophecies, with centuries 1 through 3 and the first half of century 4 created. Later in the year, he published the rest of Century 4, plus Centuries 5 through 7, in what became his biggest and most ambitious project. In 1558, Nostradamus goes on to publish Centuries 8 through 10 of Les Prophecies. However, these are only available as a limited release and would not be distributed more widely until after he died, when in 1559, King Henry II was killed. Some supporters of Nostradamus thought that he predicted this death in Quatrain 35 of the Century 1 Almanac, which reads as follows: "The young lion will overcome the older one on the field of combat in a single battle. He will pierce his eyes through a golden cage. 2 wounds made 1. Then he dies a cruel death." The king died jousting against Comte de Montgomery, and the lion reference can refer to their shields, which both had lions embossed on them. 2 main wounds are what eventually killed King Henry, and he was the older of the 2. He did not die suddenly, but rather died a cruel death, which lasted 10 days after the joust. This may be thought of as Nostradamus' most accurate fulfilled prophecies ever. On July 1st, 1566, Nostradamus states that he won't be alive by morning, after his battle with gout and edema neared its end. He was correct, and that day received his last rites by a Catholic priest. Facts about Nostradamus. There are many facts that most people are not familiar with about Nostradamus. The following sheds some light of a few of the lesser-known aspects of his life. When he was treating victims of the plague, he often used medicine that he formulated himself from rose petals. He also believed that the petals of roses had other uses as well, fighting tooth decay and bad breath. Of course, toothpaste did not exist in the day. While he was residing in Salon de Provence, France, in the mid-1500s, he was involved in a large canal irrigation project, working with engineer Adam de Crapon. This canal is still in existence. An unconfirmed legend relates that Nostradamus once greeted pig-herding Franciscan monk Felice Peretti as "Your Holiness." Sometime later, in 1585, after Nostradamus' death, that monk would go on to become Pope Sixtus V. Nostradamus lived in a house at Salon de Provence, and it still stands today and is open as a tourist attraction and museum. The town even puts on an annual summer festival in honor of Nostradamus, as they are proud of the fact that he resided in their town. Another legend exists that Nostradamus was buried with a document that held many of the undisclosed secrets of his prophecies. However, when his coffin was relocated in 1700 by Salon de Provence officials, they opened the coffin and found no such document existed. What was found, however, was a medallion. Inscribed upon the medallion was simply the year, or numbers, 1700. People thus then were amazed that his coffin happened to be open in the year 1770, the very year inscribed on his medallion draped on his remains in the coffin. Skeptical people in the modern day maintain that Nostradamus' predictions are taken out of context and are interpreted to fit events after they have occurred. These people state Nostradamus has not predicted any actual event by name or date, and that his readings should be taken literally. In recent times, some raised the name of Nostradamus as one who predicted that the world would end in December 2012, along with the Mayan prophecy. However, Nostradamus made no such mention of the date in any of his quatrains. In fact, Nostradamus named the year 3797 as the date that his prophecies would extend to. Today, Nostradamus still remains a highly popular, enigmatic, and interesting figure. Thousands of publications have been created about him, his life, and his predictions, and a few films have even been made. There are also hundreds of websites dedicated solely to his biographical details and analyzing his prophecies in detail. Along with the positive attention that Nostradamus still receives, there have also been some less than desirable hoaxes that have proliferated via the internet in recent times. For example, the terrorist attacks on New York City in 2001, along with the real prophecy listed above, also elicited a hoax prophecy that was tied to Nostradamus and spread across the internet. As fact, it is most likely that this hoax was created through a misinterpretation of the original quatrains, with a number of interpretations leading to an inaccurate prophecy, which was never written by Nostradamus himself. Another famous hoax concerns the election of George W. Bush as president in the year 2000. It is widely believed that the text circulated was completely made up, as no one has been able to locate a Nostradamus quatrain that could be translated to resemble it. The text that was distributed was as follows: "Come the millennium, month 12, in the home of greatest power, the village idiot will come forth to be acclaimed the leader." Nostradamus had even been used as a hoax tool during World War II, with leaflets containing hoax quatrains being dropped over Europe by German aircraft. It is believed that Rudolf Hess, the German political secretary, masterminded this action. There have been a number of films created about Nostradamus over the past few decades. Some notable films include Nostradamus, the Man Who Saw Tomorrow. This is more of a dramatized documentary. It is hosted by Orson Welles and uses various scenes, news stories, and other video footage to ask questions and provide insights into Nostradamus's predictions about various events, such as the death of King Louis XVI, JFK's assassination, and Napoleon. The special effects add a touch of fun to this classic film. Nostradamus, created in 2000, another fictional story starring Bob Estes featuring a Nostradamus theme. The plot is based on a medieval cult planning to bring about the end of the world by drawing upon the spirit of Nostradamus. Lupin III, Farewell to Nostradamus, a Japanese film made in 1995. This is not a film about Nostradamus in particular, but is a fictional story based around his prophecies. It can be found in the final Hall box set of the Lupin series. In addition to the feature films, Nostradamus has also been the subject of, or portrayed in, a number of television shows and series. The History Channel often airs series and specials on Nostradamus and his prophecies. Other shows where Nostradamus has been mentioned or featured include an episode of The Sopranos, Doctor Who, My Date with a Vampire, a Hong Kong series, and several others. In 2007, there was a video game released called Nostradamus: The Last Prophecy. It is an adventure game based in Salon de Provence in the year 1556 and is heavily based on and set in Nostradamus's time. Although the plot is fictional, it uses many of the same names and characters who featured in Nostradamus's life, although the player never actually gets to play as Nostradamus. While most of Nostradamus's fulfilled prophecies to date have been on major events in the past, scholars still wonder whether he has any other predictions that will be relevant to both the short and the long-term future. Of great interest today is whether or not Nostradamus predicted a possible World War III battle at any point in the future. Although none of his quatrains specifically spell out a World War III, some can certainly be interpreted as pointing in that direction. An author by the name of David S. Montaigne wrote a book titled Nostradamus, World War III, 2002, where he predicted that 2002 would be the year of World War III. Clearly, that did not eventuate, but this is the Nostradamus quatrain that he used to back up his predictions. From brick to marble, the walls will be converted. 57 peaceful years, joy to mankind, the aqueduct renewed, health, abundant fruits, joy, and honey-making times. The main aspect that Montaigne focused on for stating 2002 would be the year for the next World War was the line 7 and 50 peaceful years, referring to there being 57 years between the end of World War II and the start of the next war. This would equate to the year 2002. He also used the following Nostradamus quatrain to guess what or who would be the cause of the beginning of World War III. In this instance, pointing to Osama bin Laden or his followers of beyond the Black Sea and of the great Tartary, a king comes who will see Gaul, piercing across Alania and Armenia, and within Byzantium he will leave his bloody rod. It is unknown whether these predictions can still be made relevant today, despite the fact that the year and alleged perpetrator, who is now deceased, both render Montaigne's specific predictions to be wrong. The cryptic nature of the quatrains still leave them wide open to interpretation on this matter. Since no specific date or name were actually mentioned, whilst there is no doubt that many of Nostradamus's prophecies can be interpreted in a number of ways, many scholars over the decades and centuries have realized that there have been many uncanny instances where the quatrains are almost uncanny in their relevance to any particular event, especially the ones mentioned above in this article. Nostradamus and his prophecies have fascinated people for centuries and no doubt will continue to do so well into the future as well. If you enjoy this video and want to see more like it, please consider subscribing to us and hitting the like button. Feel free to write a comment below and suggest which theory you want to see next. If you'd like to further support this channel, please consider joining. Our membership link will be found in the description box below. We appreciate your support, and as always, thanks for watching.